What's up, YouTube? So today I wanted to talk more about my pharmacy career. In one of my last videos, when I last talked about pharmacy, I talked about what I did for undergrad and how I went about getting my undergrad degree and kind of what I did as my pre-pharmacy curriculum before getting into pharmacy school, and talk a little bit more about how I pursued it in my first pharmacy job. So today I want to continue talking about my journey getting into pharmacy school, and actually touch a little bit about how I went about applying for pharmacy school and how I got into the pharmacy school of my choice. So let's get started. So backing up to my undergrad degree, again, I think I remember saying that I got a physical science degree in my last video. So I got a undergrad degree instead of just doing like the three-year track pre-pharmacy curriculum. When it came close to graduation, I obviously had to start thinking about what pharmacy school I wanted to go to. And my number one choice, or my number one pick that I wanted to go to, was Auburn University. Like I said in one of my videos, Auburn is been one of those college towns that was pretty nearby. So we always went there for college football games. And I've always had friends here that went to college, and I always fantasized about being a student here. And so since I didn't go here for my undergrad degree, or I wasn't able to experience that undergrad college life here in Auburn, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go there for pharmacy school. That's what I want to do. I just thought that would be such a great idea. Also, Auburn's pharmacy school is one of the top sought after pharmacy schools for pharmacy students, and it also is one of the top picks when it comes to like careers and jobs, picking pharmacy students from all the different pharmacy schools, because there are thousands of pharmacy schools out around the United States, and Auburn University is one of the most well-known ones. I think last year it made like the top 25 in the nation. So it's a really prestigious pharmacy school, and it looks really great on your resume to say that you graduated from Auburn, or the Harrison School of Pharmacy, Auburn University. So that was one of the reasons, obviously, that I wanted to go there, because I wanted to be successful in my pharmacy career, and I wanted to be a highly sought after pharmacist when I did graduate. So that was one of the reasons why I also wanted to go to Auburn. And like I said, I just always fantasized about being a student in a college town like Auburn University. So knowing that I wanted to go to Auburn University's pharmacy school, and knowing that it was a highly sought after pharmacy school to go to, and everybody wanted to go there for pharmacy school, at least usually around here within the southern states. And even there's a lot of like far away out of states that we had students come from that also wanted to go to pharmacy school there. So knowing that it's a very competitive pharmacy school, it kind of made me nervous to think that, gosh, I really want to go there, but what if I don't get in? What if I'm not, good enough to get into the Harrison School of Pharmacy at Auburn University? What if they think I'm not smart enough, And I think each year, at least for Auburn's pharmacy school now, I don't know how it is for every other pharmacy school out there, but I'm just speaking from Auburn's perspective. So Auburn's pharmacy school, they take 150 spots each admissions year, and they say like usually the average of applicants they get is about 600. So 600 applicants, and only taking 150 applicants out of that pool of students wanting to go here for pharmacy school, that's really competitive for a professional graduate school. And knowing that, again, just kind of puts more fear in your mind, and just thinking, gosh, am I really good enough? Am I smart enough to go to pharmacy school? So keeping that in mind, I wanted to have a backup plan in case I applied there and I didn't get in. So I also applied to Samford University, which is a pharmacy school out of Birmingham, Alabama. I also applied to Mercer University, which is out of Georgia. I think Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not really sure. It's in Georgia though. And I also applied to Georgia's pharmacy school. So because Georgia is also another top 25 like pharmacy school to go to. So that I wanted to, and that's kind of pretty nearby, it's right next door to Alabama. So I just wanted to, go somewhere close. But really my heart was set on going to Auburn University. So one of the things you have to do with entering into pharmacy school is you have to take what's called a PCAT. I think it stands for like Pharmacy Cumulative Administrative Test, something like that. I don't know. It's called the PCAT. It's similar to what doctors have to take. Doctors have to take an MCAT to get into medical school. Well, pharmacists have to take a PCAT to get into pharmacy school. It's just this huge, you know, cumulative, standardized, like timed test that you have to take. It's like taking an ACT in order to get into college, but of course it's more pharmacy based and really, really hard. But you have to make, and each pharmacy school has their own PCAT score that they like to take each year, just kind of depending on what the testing average is, like per like each year or based off like the previous year. So it kind of varies, but, and I don't really know, I think it is, the PCAT is off a 100-point scale, and I don't remember what Auburn's supposed PCAT score was at the time when I applied. I applied to pharmacy school like in 2010, I think, because I didn't actually start till 2012, but, so anyways, you had to take a PCAT score. So that was one of the first things you had to do in applying to pharmacy school, and of course I wanted to do really well on that, and because not only do they look at your GPA and your transfers from your college, but they look at your PCAT score, and then you have to, if they are interested in you, then they call you for an interview. So I think most schools do that. So if they're interested in you, they call you in for an interview. Usually if you get called in for an interview, you're pretty much in. They just want to make sure that you are a sane person in person. You actually have somewhat of a personality. You can communicate with people. Basically, they're addressing if you're like not a crazy, insane person and assessing whether or not you should probably be in the healthcare world or not. I don't know. And I guess kind of, you know, studying your character a little bit and testing your morals a little bit, I guess. I don't know. But I just always heard that if you got an interview that you were basically in, like you had nothing to worry about. I think I ended up taking the PCAT like, I think 2 times because I wasn't that happy with my first score, so I wanted to score a little bit higher, so I took it again. And I don't remember my scores, but obviously they were well enough to get into pharmacy school. But I do remember taking it 2 times because I think actually that my first score would have been acceptable, but I was still just so like, I need to make sure I am standing out above all these 600 other applicants, so I ended up taking it again just to get the highest score. And I think each time you take it, the test itself is like $400, I think, to take, so it's real expensive. So that's a lot of money that you do spend. Then you have to send in like an essay, and of course send on your transfers and your GPA and everything. So I did all that. I sent it to all the pharmacy schools I applied for, obviously in hopes that I would get into Harrison School of Pharmacy, Auburn University's pharmacy school. And they were actually one of the first ones to give me a call back and give me an interest of having an interview, and I was so shocked. And they also say, like, I got my stuff in really early. They say that the earlier you get your application in, the better chance you have of being picked or being noticed out of obviously the huge pool of applicants you have each year. So you gotta think about it that way. You know, it's really important to get your stuff in early because let's just say, theoretically speaking, which really doesn't ever really happen, but let's just say that you send in your stuff early and they happen to like the first 150 applicants. So they go ahead and take the first 150 applicants. They liked them, so they ended up taking that 150 spots are already taken. So the other 450 applicants, they're kind of screwed because you didn't get your stuff in early enough because Auburn already picked their top 150 applicants. So that's why it's really important to get your stuff in early. At least, again, I'm speaking for Auburn. Now, Auburn's pharmacy school, they only do like fall admissions. So I think I applied, I guess I was applying in 2010 and 11 because I graduated in 2011, like December 2011. So I actually worked full-time at my pharmacy for a whole year. And then I started, Slater's looking at the neighbors out the window. He if he sees like anyone walking by or a dog, he's like, "Look, who's that? Who is it? Who is it, Slate? What do you see?" But anyways, the earlier you get your stuff in, the better chance you have of getting a callback or an interview if they are interested in you. So I got my stuff in like early August, I think, and I ended up getting a call for an interview, I think like in September. Or they responded to me like in September, and so I went to an interview I think like in October. So it was really early, and Auburn's Pharmacy School takes applicants or admissions on up till May. So they start taking applicants in August each year, and then they keep going till the next year of May. And so I got mine in really early, and I think that was one of the reasons why I had such a good chance of getting noticed and getting recognized, because I got my crap in really early, okay? That's what I suggest for anyone who is applying to pharmacy school. Like, don't wait till last minute. Get your stuff in as early as you can. So I ended up going to an interview, and obviously they ended up loving me. And it was like a whole day of interviews, and you're there with like a bunch of pharmacy students, and it was kind of fun. It really was not, at least for Auburn's pharmacy school. They made it really laid back. They made it really comfortable. Wasn't really nerve-wracking at all, and I just went in there and I was myself. Yeah, I prepared like a little bit ahead of time for the interview, just because I kind of like researched like some typical like pharmacy interview questions before I went to the interview. But mainly it was a lot of situational or based type interview questions, and you did a lot of group work also in the interview, at least for Auburn. So I did really well in the interview. I scored really high, and so they ended up accepting me. And after Auburn accepted me, I didn't even worry about going to the other interviews for the other. I did get accepted to the other pharmacy schools, but I did not even worry about going to their interview, because once Auburn accepted me, because that's what my heart was set on, I was like, see ya, I'm going to Auburn, guys, War Eagle. So I was so excited that, oh my gosh, I actually got accepted into pharmacy school, period, but I got accepted to Auburn University's pharmacy school. And so I got accepted, like I said, in 2011, but they didn't, so that was 2011 fall. So I had to wait, a whole year before I could start my year of pharmacy school. So I actually, graduated, and I just ended up working at my pharmacy for a whole year full time till I started pharmacy school. And then I started going to Auburn University. But I remember just thinking that was one of the best moments of my life at that point, getting accepted into Auburn's pharmacy school, because kind of leading up to it, it was almost one of those things like, this is so nerve-wracking. Like, is this even possible? Am I even going to get accepted to any pharmacy school? And that was just one of the best feelings, one of the best moments in my life, to get accepted to pharmacy school, especially the Harrison School of Pharmacy. Like, I remember getting that letter, like that moment that I was accepted, and at that time, that was one of the best moments in my life for me to happen. And it's so neat just looking back, even now in my life, where I am with pharmacy school. It's so neat looking back and seeing how I came up with a goal, I came up with a plan, and I stuck it out. I worked really, really hard. I dedicated a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifices, and I worked my butt off to get here, and it actually panned out exactly how I imagined. I was very successful in school. I got my degree in undergrad. I sought after to go to Auburn University School, a pharmacy school, and I got in, and I went to pharmacy school there, and I graduated from there. And it's just really neat how my plan was actually according to, obviously, God's plan too, because I wouldn't have gotten this done if it wasn't for the big man upstairs. There's no way I could have done this by myself, but I was just so thankful that my plan was according to his plan too. So it's just really neat to just see your dream come true, in that aspect. So yeah, that's pretty cool to me. Okay, so now I am just looking through my YouTube comments, because I had asked specifically on my YouTube if you wanted to know any specific questions, or ask me specific questions, so I could answer particularly to pharmacy related questions. So I'm just kind of going through those right now. I'm only going to talk, or I guess ask the ones that are specifically about pharmacy school right now. Although there's a lot of questions, which I've gotten this basically my entire YouTube channel lifetime, but there's a lot of questions about how I stay motivated. while I was in pharmacy school, like with fitness and everything, but I'm going to kind of save those questions for another type vlog that I plan on doing in the future, because I kind of want this just to be mainly like just pharmacy related for those who are interested in the pharmacy school side of this. So one of the first questions I'm coming to is, this is by Nicole Malello. I'm sorry, I'm always going to butcher people's names. I apologize, but this is from Nicole. And she wants to know, what was the toughest part of studying pharmacy for you? Was it the late night studying a specific class, large exams, applying for grad school? So I already talked about applying for grad school. How did you manage any stress you experienced through the tough times? So, let me just go ahead and say pharmacy school is tough in general. It's really, really hard. I think one of the first days of our one of our pharmacy school classes was during our drugs and diseases classes, and our professor actually made the comment that, hey, you know, where they were just, you know, giving the whole intro about like pharmacy school, kind of what to expect, and he was like, oh, by the way, it's harder than rocket science, and he's being dead serious. So he kind of gave us like a forewarning that we're not only in pharmacy school, but we are also in medical school, because we basically have to learn all the disease states and basically know the diagnosis and everything, so that therefore we can know what the proper treatments and everything is for the disease states, because we are the drug experts. But in order to be the drug experts, we have to know how they work in the body and why and how. So we have to also be very educated on how to recognize and diagnose diseases in patients, and basically everything you learn in med school. So pharmacy school is kind of a combination of med school and pharmacy school. So therefore, it's harder than rocket science, according to him. But I would say, I mean, and again, I can only speak from the perspective of Auburn's pharmacy school, because every pharmacy school has a different curriculum. Our pharmacy school, you do this class which is called Drugs and Diseases, or DAD. You'll hear it referred to as DAD. You have DAD 1, DAD 2, DAD 3, and DAD 4. So you have 4 semesters of Drugs and Diseases. That is the most dreaded class in pharmacy school, that everybody dreads, that everyone usually struggles with or either loves. And that is also the kind of the weeding out class. So our first semester of pharmacy school, when we had drugs and diseases, it was actually it was mainly chemistry based, but then our second semester, it really dived into the different disease states and diagnosing, and to really kind of getting into the drugs. And our first year of pharmacy school, that was a year that kind of weeded out some people in our class. So we actually had a couple of people who failed, a couple of people who dropped out on their own just because they were like, this is not for me. So definitely as a class, drugs and diseases was definitely the hardest class for us in pharmacy school, because we had it for 2 full years. So we had it for 4 semesters. There is a lot of late night studying. It will always be person specific. I personally have never been that type to stay up all night and study for an exam. I was just the type of person, like, it was more important for me to get a good night rest, because I would perform better the next day on the exam. And also, if I didn't know it by then I'm not going to know it by, you know, the time the exam came through. And I usually didn't ever cram up to the last minute of the exam either. I would kind of review stuff, like review the main stuff, or maybe touch on something that I was still like really hesitant about, that if I really knew a lot about it. But I never really stayed up super late. There might have been maybe 1 or 2 where I stayed up past like 1 o'clock, but that was really rare. So that means that I was having a lot going on for me to do that. But no, and luckily and again, person specific, I didn't have to study 24/7 in order to do well. Now, I definitely could have studied a lot more and made a lot better, but you'll come to find out in pharmacy school that you got to think about it in this way. You're in pharmacy school. You're coming from being a person who is the top of your class to this pool of students who are all the top of your class. So that doesn't mean that you're going to be the top of your class in pharmacy school. And that's something that I realized very quickly my first semester of pharmacy school. I still did really well, but I quickly got over the fact that I'm not going to make an A on every single exam in pharmacy school, and I wasn't going to kill myself over it, like I saw many of my classmates do just to get an A on an exam. Now, I made A's and B's, and I even made some C's in pharmacy school, and the C's were in drugs and diseases, the hardest class in pharmacy school. But once I got over that I was not going to be the top person in my class, it made my life on me that much easier because I was able to balance more of my other parts of my life a whole lot better than just studying in 24/7 to pharmacy school. So I was actually able to do the things that I enjoyed outside of pharmacy school because I wasn't studying 24/7. So that would also be one of my biggest advice for people is make sure you have something going on in your life that you love besides pharmacy school, because if not, I just can't imagine you having that feeling of a life. I just imagine you having a miserable life that's all you're doing is staying in your room and studying, because there was people in my class who did that, and I was like, that is not for me. Also, your exams are very large, and I wish I still had them. I actually just got rid of all my pharmacy school notes and everything and books. I finally committed to throwing them away because they had this huge shelf of everything just perfectly organized throughout my pharmacy school years of each class, each exam. Our exams are like the 5-inch notebooks per exam. Not like the little thin things, but like the biggest, like 5-inch, I think they're the 5-inch ones that you get. It's a lot of material. But definitely drugs and diseases was the hardest class. I would probably say the toughest part though overall of pharmacy school is just getting organized, because everyone is given the same 24 hours in a day, right? So the toughest part about pharmacy school to me was making a schedule for yourself, getting organized. And that is something that you will learn if you're not already what I consider myself like a neat person, a very organized person. If you're not already an organized person, you will become organized in pharmacy school, because you will not make it if you are not somewhat organized, because it's nothing like undergrad. This is a professional grad school. It's a doctorate program. They expect you to be, way up here, right? I expect you to handle a mother load of classes and hours, and you have to be organized. You have to be a planner. And if I wasn't organized, if I wasn't a planner, I would not have done very well in pharmacy school. I may not have even passed pharmacy school if I didn't learn to really adjust how I managed my everyday with pharmacy school. But that was probably the toughest part, was just organizing and finding time, because your schedule and the amount of material you have to study and the amount of projects and reading and just videos to watch, lectures to watch, notes to take, it's unbelievable. You become so overwhelmed, but you get into your routine. You kind of figure out, what areas you're weakest in, what you need to focus more on. You get into your routine of how you can handle it and how to be organized. So that was probably the toughest part, was just you feel like you don't have time for anything, and you really don't, but that's why you gotta make time for stuff, like the gym. Okay, this is a really good question. The question is, this is from Kim. The question is, do you ever plan on exploring other careers in other career paths in pharmacy besides retail pharmacy? At this point, probably not, because that's all I have worked is retail pharmacy. And again, I've always worked at independent pharmacy, and I love independent pharmacy. It's honestly, I think that is the place for me in pharmacy. I didn't ever think I would work for a chain pharmacy, but I'll kind of talk about this a little bit more in another video of how I ended up working for Walgreens. But since I am working for a chain a big chain retail pharmacy, yes, I definitely would like to explore going back to independent pharmacy. However, I will say that on 2 of my rotations I did for my P4 year, I rotated at it was a clinic. It was like a pharmacy clinic outside of a hospital, and it was a free type clinic where mainly your population was like the indigent population. It was a lot of homeless people. It was a lot of just low income patients that came through there. But there was no insurance involved, and that's what made it so great. It was like running a public retail pharmacy without insurance, because everyone who knows anything about working with pharmacy, insurance is the most stressful thing to deal with, and that is the most stressful part of working in a pharmacy. Not necessarily the customers usually, but is working with insurance. Having the experience of working in a pharmacy without insurance was one of the best things ever. And I just really enjoyed that environment because, and I'll be honest, I really was kind of skeptical about working in a clinic like that. But it opened my eyes, because most of those patients that did come through there were so appreciative for what you were doing for them. It was great. And in that setting, now, you were kind of more of like a doctor. Like, I was the doctor. I had scheduled patients every day that would come in and see me. I would, assess what's going on with them. Most of the time, they were just follow-up patients, so I would just kind of follow up with their disease states. Most of it was like diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, and you would follow up with them, just see how they're doing, adjust any medications, adjust any lifestyle modifications that needed to be made. It was a lot of coagulation therapy too, so a lot of warfarin and like Coumadin clinic type stuff. And it was really great. I really enjoyed it. So we were like the actual doctor they went and saw. And we made the adjustments on their medications and their disease states. And it was really great. And I just really enjoyed that. I loved feeling more involved as a pharmacist than I had ever felt before, and really making an impact in patients' lives. So I really enjoyed that part of my rotation. And also another similar rotation, similar to that I did, I worked at a VA clinic in Fort Benning, Georgia, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Not only was it a great experience because I was working for the VA, so I loved just working in that environment as well. I loved working with all the little old men, and of course there's old ladies too, right, in the VA, but I loved just working with them and just kind of giving back to the veterans. A lot of them are so appreciative to what you do for them. And it was almost like I kind of felt like I was helping or treating my grandfather, you know? And it was kind of the same setting. Like, I had scheduled times and scheduled appointments with these different patients that would come in. I would, follow up with them, just see how they're doing, make any adjustments to any of their medications, really assess their disease states, make any lifestyle changes. But most of the time, they just loved just having conversation with you. And it was just more of that relationship with me and the patient that I really enjoyed. And again, just feeling like I made an impact in that person's life. I really enjoyed that side of pharmacy. However, 9 out of 10 times, in order to get a job for that, you have to go get a residency in pharmacy. And I just did not want to go do a residency after pharmacy school. I just really was so burnt out in school. I was so ready to start my job, and just I was so ready to start my job and just get financially stable, and because I knew I had a lot of student loan debt, and I kind of wanted to go ahead and just get my career going, and I wanted to spend more time away from school with like my friends and family and doing other things in life that I enjoy. So I didn't really have to go on another year of school. Even though doing a residency, it's your job, like you're working full time, but you're still doing school. And I was just so burnt out, and I just didn't want to continue to do school anymore. And doing a residency is really hard, and it's really hard to match up to with what specific residency program you want to do. And I was just kind of like, you know what, I just don't think residency is right for me right now. and I've always worked independent pharmacy or retail pharmacy or in a community setting, and so that's what I'm going to go for, and that's what I did because I love it. I really do. But so that's why I didn't go a different career path, or I'm not trying to pursue another career path at this time. But I think I would like to go back to independent pharmacy one day. If you could do anything differently in pharmacy school, what would you have done? So I had to really think about this one because honestly, I don't think I really would have done much differently in pharmacy school. I feel like that I handled pharmacy school pretty dang well considering of what it was. And I don't know, the only thing I could really think about is, I guess now, or even coming off my P4 year and even being in real practice, like real practice, probably I wouldn't have taken for granted some of the things that we studied in pharmacy school. There's a lot of things that you'll see in pharmacy school where you're kind of like, this is dumb. Like, why are we studying this? Why do we need to study this? We're not really going to use this or see this in everyday practice. And it's so funny because that has come to bite me in the butt. And even my P4 year, and I can't really think of any specific examples right now, but I just remember like on some of my rotations, there was things that came up and I was like, oh my gosh, we learned this in pharmacy school, but I didn't really pay it any attention or give it any attention because I thought it was dumb, and now it's coming back to bite me in the butt. So now I'm having to go home and look it up because I don't know the answer to it because I didn't study it properly because I took it for granted. So that's probably like the biggest thing that I could say that I would probably do differently, because I probably wouldn't take things that my professors were teaching us for granted and not think that everything was dumb that we were learning. So yes, make sure you take everything that you learn in pharmacy school seriously. And the thing that's funny is you don't even learn, I don't know, you might learn like 50% of what you really need to know in pharmacy school. But the rest is continued learning. And that's the thing about healthcare, is you'll find, and especially in pharmacy, things are constantly changing. You have to constantly be staying up to date and studying. That's just how it works. There's constantly new drugs coming out. There's new ways to treat disease states. There's all kinds of things, policies, or like things going on with insurances, and pharmacy is a very, very changing, evolving field, and you always have to stay up to date with it. So definitely don't take anything that you learn for granted in pharmacy school. So how did I manage any stress that I experienced during tough times? So I think one of the best things about pharmacy school was the friends that I made in pharmacy school. They were some of the best friends that I have ever had, and it's really great because when you go through pharmacy school, you'll make friends, and those will be your best friends throughout pharmacy school, and those will be your study partners also. I could not have made it through pharmacy school if it wasn't for the friends I had in school. And it's really great because during stressful times, when you're all trying to cram and study for an exam, more than likely everyone is kind of smarter in one area or the other depending on what you're studying. So there was 4 of us mainly, and all of us had our strengths and weaknesses in certain areas, and so we all just really were compatible when it came to studying different things in pharmacy school, and we all helped each other. And it's really great because it's something that your friends in pharmacy school, they are the only ones that really know what's going on, what you're going through. Your parents, or even your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or even your other friends outside of pharmacy school, they may try to understand, but they really don't. And it's something funny that it's just, pharmacy school is something that you don't understand unless you're going through it yourself. You don't realize how hard it is. But also how rewarding it is and how blessed you are to be there. But the friends that are in pharmacy school, they're experiencing the same things that you're going through. They're stressing about the same things that you're going through. They're having the same struggles. And so it's really great to have friends to rely on to help you get through those situations. And that's what helped me more than anything, was having really smart, incredible friends by my side to help me get through pharmacy school. And then of course, going to the gym. The gym was always my outing. That was kind of like my me time aside from school, as it is now aside from work. That is like the one thing one of the things that I look forward to each and every day. As soon as I wake up, I'm thinking about going to the gym, how it's going to be so great when I get off work and go to the gym. That's how I was with school. It was like my study break. I always just made time for the gym because that was my stress reliever. And I just loved it. So that's how I mainly dealt with stressful times. Some more advice I could also give about going into pharmacy school. You'll hear a lot about getting involved, meaning getting involved with organizations and clubs that are offered through pharmacy school, and I highly recommend that. I was involved in pharmacy school, but maybe looking back now, I kind of wish I was a little bit more involved. But there's different pharmacy specific organizations that are going to be right for you. I was in a couple different ones. The ones that I chose to be a part of were the ones that fit me, were the ones that kind of fit the side of pharmacy that I was really interested in. And I was really glad that I did get involved with that, because you're so informed. You're that much more informed when you are involved in those organizations. It really preps you for when you do get out on your own as a pharmacist. It also, the biggest thing is it opens up the door for networking, for connections, for getting to know the right people. Yes, getting your education and making great grades and having a great resume is going to look good on paper, but it's honestly, pharmacy is a huge world, but it's also a very small world, and it's really a lot about who you know. So it's really important to make connections, get your name known through specific people, especially with big named people out there, especially if you're wanting to go into a residency in pharmacy, or you're wanting to do something bigger and beyond with pharmacy. You're going to have to know the right people. And so being in those organizations, going to these different conventions, going to these different legislative days, or just these organization events that are put on, that's really important, because not only do they meet you, but they put a name with a face. It's really important to network with people in pharmacy. And I can honestly say for myself that has helped me, as well as networking and getting to know the right people. And just, you'd be amazed of how many people out there in the pharmacy world are willing to help you if they know you. And so that's why it's important to really get involved with these organizations. And it's also giving back to the pharmacy field in general, because with pharmacy, as well with a lot of healthcare out there, because what all is going on with our nation right now, our healthcare system is going downhill. I mean, that's just the plain truth. With how America is handling everything and who is running the healthcare stuff in America right now, healthcare is going down. And it's real important to give back to your field, especially in pharmacy, because without you, pharmacy is not going to prosper. It's not going to grow. It's not going to get out of the hole that it may be in the healthcare world right now, as the state of America is at this point. Also, getting involved in an organization gives you a lot of opportunities for leadership opportunities if you're interested in that. I actually held a position in one of my organizations, and so that was something that looks really great on my resume. And a lot of people often ask me about that, about job opportunities, about my leadership position of my organization. And it just kind of makes you, a better person, or like a better character. It builds your character. And again, it just gives you more and greater opportunities in the field of pharmacy. Another advice is just to have fun with pharmacy school. Pharmacy school was one of the hardest, most challenging times in my life, 4 years of my life, but it was the most rewarding and fun and just great experience that I will ever have. Like, I will never get that back. And I am so glad that I got to experience that again. And it was kind of fun because it's in a college town, Auburn, Alabama, so it was almost like I got to relive my college years again, but in a more mature way, I guess. But it was a lot of fun. And again, that definitely attributes back to the friends I had in pharmacy school. And it was just, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just such a great experience. And I'm one that, like, I've always enjoyed school, but pharmacy school was like a whole new level. And it was just so much fun, and it's real important not to take it so seriously. I mean, obviously you have to take it seriously. You have to make a lot of sacrifices, but don't forget to have fun. In the meantime, like when you're done with a big exam, if you don't have one the next day, at least go out with your friends. Go out and have a good time. Celebrate being done with that exam, which we did a lot. Wednesday night drinking club. But it was a lot of fun, and I do not regret any decisions that I made in pharmacy school. Me and my friends, we went out a lot. We had a good time besides outside of pharmacy school. And it's funny, on graduation, we even kind of talked about, gosh, why didn't we go out more? Like, we're done. Why didn't we go out more and have more fun and not take pharmacy school so seriously? But you'll learn that there's a fine balance between work and play, just like with anything in life. And again, that all depends on the type of person you are. You know, if you need to study a whole lot, then study a whole lot if you need to do, you know, in order to do well in pharmacy school. But if you think that, you know, you can still do pretty decently well without having to study 24/7, then go out with your friends or do something besides studying, do something besides pharmacy school. It was a really great time, and I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. So I think this is going to conclude this vlog because I have spoken and rambled on way entirely too much, as always. But I hope this was informative or gave a little bit more insight to those who were interested in the field of pharmacy, or just a little bit more about my career in general. But yeah, I guess this is going to end this, and so I don't know what my next vlog is going to be. Who knows? It'll be a surprise. But I'm going to get ready for good bed because I've got work in the morning. But anyways, I hope y'all have a wonderful night. And I will see y'all in the next vlog. Thanks for watching.